I'm a nearly adult guy with two dads. I'll call them Cole and James for this post. 9-ish years into my parents' relationship, Cole was in a bad accident, broke multiple bones, and suffered a TBI, traumatic brain injury. He almost died. Nobody really knows how he survived. He and James had lived together for years and considered themselves married, but could not legally marry in the state then. Even though Cole had James down as his emergency contact and the person to make decisions for him, Cole's parents heard about it, took James to court, and won the right as his family to make those decisions. They kicked James out of the hospital and called the police on him for harassment because he left the room but went to the waiting area. They said they could get him straightened out since Cole would likely have lost most of his memories. Cole's siblings, all older than him, were on board and made it clear to James that he'd never see Cole again. Cole woke up with 10 missing years of memory. His parents wanted to keep it that way, which meant he made no progress for months. Doctors were concerned because they believed he could, but he just didn't try. Cole's family didn't care. They were adamant Cole was better not improving and staying as he was than trying to see if James could help, until one of Cole's cousins decided it was cruel and something should be done. When James came to see Cole, he started to find a will to do something. Cole always told me that his heart knew James where his brain didn't, and he gave him the will to want to improve, and his family did not. Cole had to insist his family be removed and James take over. Eventually, Cole improved enough to go home, and then when he improved enough to get some independence back, they moved out to a state where they could legally marry. I came along a few years later. My parents were candid with me about their past, Cole's disabilities, and his family. I always knew that they were not safe people. Cole's family wanted to know me because they believed I was biologically Cole's. Cole's parents died within a day of each other a few weeks ago. His siblings reached out to tell Cole. He wanted nothing to do with any of it. Then they contacted me via social media and tried calling me via Messenger. I ignored it. They sent me a message saying my grandparents would have wanted me there and how I shouldn't ignore my loss. This is when I called the account messaging me, and when one of them answered, I said that I had lost no grandparents, and as far as I was concerned, it was good that the world had lost 2 more morons. Then I ended the call. I blocked them, but another account was made, and they accused me of being evil and said James had raised me to be evil and sick, just like him. They also harassed Cole off social media and into taking out our landline, which we had because it's easiest sometimes for Cole to use still. Am I the idiot? Oh dear, I can't fathom how you would have any doubt if you were not the idiot while writing this. Not the idiot. I'm sorry for what your dad went through, but I'm glad it worked out in the end. Your family doesn't owe anything to Cole's parents. They literally tried to ruin your parents' relationship and only want to contact you because they think your biological father is one of your dads. And that just sucks. I'm sorry this is happening. The really telling thing is that the people, I won't call them your family, created more accounts so that they can continue to harass you. This is not the actions of people who actually care. This is the action of people just looking to hurt someone else. Wow. Just wow. The cousin is the hero in this story. They deserve no sympathy, no understanding, no care, and no tears. They tried to ruin not just the relationship. They were perfectly happy ruining their son's life and well-being over this. They were happy he had a traumatic brain injury and lost a decade of his life because they thought this way they could fix him. That's like straight up supervillain levels of evil. What repulsive people. OP, I'm so glad your dads were reunited and you have your family. These people aren't worth a second thought. And you're right. The world is better off without them. I, 54 male, lost my wife to cancer 11 years ago. It was hard for my kids, 26 male, 24 female, Jane, and me, but my daughter was devastated. Jane and my wife were extremely close, and she's been in therapy for many years. I never thought I'd date again and did my best to be supportive and give both of them enough love to fill the void left by my wife. It was tough and very trying at times, but I'm proud of the people my kids have become. Last year, I was taking an oil painting class and met a woman, Lacey, 42 female. She's the first person I've had feelings for since my wife died. She had divorced her husband a year prior, so we were both taking it slow. I waited a couple of months before telling my kids I was seeing her. My son was happy for me and told me he was glad I found someone. Jane, however, was rather cold and distant when I told her. I asked what was wrong, and she said nothing was wrong. Lacey and my son get along quite well, but Jane has only been cold and passive-aggressive toward her. Lacey has tried her best to be kind and hasn't pushed to be in Jane's life, but Jane's attitude hasn't changed. Jane always makes rude comments about Lacey whenever I see her at this point, regardless of whether Lacey's there. Every time I ask her what her problem with Lacey is, she just deflects, and pushing the question just makes her more angry and defensive. This came to a head last weekend. We had a family gathering to celebrate my mother's 82nd birthday. Jane asked why Lacey was there at all, and I told her that Lacey was important to me. She gets along really well with Grandma. As a side note, the two get along really well since they're both into knitting and arts and crafts. Jane stormed off. I was talking with my son and nephew while Lacey and my mom were talking. Lacey got up to go get a drink, but when she came back, she was almost in tears and told me she wasn't feeling well. I pulled her aside and asked her what was happening, and apparently, Jane had said some very harsh things to Lacey and stopped short of outright calling her a gold digger. We went home after that. The next day, I called Jane over, and Lacey went to the spa. I told Jane that she doesn't have to treat Lacey like her mom, but she has to at the very least be civil. She told me I was replacing her mom and that she hated that I was trying to forget her mom. I told her that I still visit her mom's grave twice a month, and that was completely unfair for her to say. I asked her if she wanted me to be alone for the rest of my life, and she said she'd prefer that over me dating a woman who only likes me for my money. I told Jane that she either acts civil with Lacey or I will no longer give her monthly money. She called me an idiot and left. My son called me later and said that I wasn't being fair, and it's just taking a while for Jane to accept me moving on. I'm not sure what I should do at this point. I understand Jane is hurting, but I can't stand seeing her take it out on Lacey. Am I the idiot? Edit. Jane is in her junior year of college, and I'm paying for her so she can focus on her studies. I encouraged both my kids to take time before deciding their plan, and my daughter tried different fields to figure out what she really wanted to study. Bit ironic for an adult receiving an allowance to imply someone else is a gold digger? Not the idiot, OP. You don't need a reason to stop giving an adult child an allowance. Jane is an adult, and being an adult means you don't always have free rein to act out how you feel. Being able to control oneself and act civilly is a hallmark of being a mature adult. That Jane isn't mature is on her, and she needs to decide if acting out is worth losing her monetary support. You don't have to quit loving your late wife to be able to love again. It's been 11 years after your wife's death. Therapy's not working. Your daughter's being selfish. Yeah, it's been 11 years, and Jane thinks her dad should be alone and unhappy? Kinda makes me wonder if she's just angry she'll have to share, or possibly lose out on any inheritance money in the future. Jane needs a come-to-Jesus moment. Maybe taking away her free ride will accomplish that. I want to know if I'm being the idiot here or if my roommate is wrong. I'm a government contractor, and the nature of my work means I can't work from home. My roommate exclusively works from home. When I get a package delivered and I'm at work, I'll text my roommate after I get the delivery notification and ask him to get the package off the porch. But most of the time he never does. I'll get home and the package will still be on the porch. I would say 99% of the time, he doesn't get it before I get home. It's not an excessive amount or multiple ones a day. I'm talking less than 3 in a month. I also don't expect him to immediately jump up and run to the porch, just whenever he has a minute. He always says he'll do it, and then he never does. But if he orders something, he immediately gets it when it's delivered. Even if it's in the middle of work, he'll drop everything to get it. My roommate says I'm being demanding by expecting him to go get it. I'm worried about porch pirates, even though it isn't a huge problem here, because it sometimes happens. I try to redirect the packages or delay delivery until I'm home, but that's not always possible. I think it's common courtesy, but my roommate says it's not. If I worked from home and anyone I lived with didn't, I would get their packages off the porch. But my roommate says I'm wrong to expect it, and if I ask and he doesn't go get it, it shouldn't be a big deal, even if he replied and told me he would. We've argued about this. Edit. Since his room and office are on opposite sides of the front door and his windows open up onto the porch, and I do favors like let him use my car and be on my insurance, I figured this wasn't a big ask, though I might be wrong. Holy bat crap, fat man. Do you know what common courtesy is? Getting your roommate's packages off the porch. Do you know what is absolutely not common courtesy? Putting your roommate on your insurance and letting the ungrateful bastard drive your car. Not the idiot. For sure. It takes 5 seconds to grab a package and put it by the door, especially if he already agreed to do it. But it's definitely too late to negotiate on it. Remove him from the insurance and let him know the car isn't for him to be driving and move on with being housemates. I'd look at getting a new housemate. I agree with this, OP. You aren't asking or expecting too much, especially since you let him use your car and have him on your insurance. If you don't want to part ways, then 100% take him off your insurance and let him know that y'all can just be housemates like he seems to want. By all means, don't keep allowing him to use your car. Favors work both ways. How hard can it be to take 20 seconds of your day to simply receive and retrieve a package for a friend who you live with? Seriously, it always blows my mind how entitled some people are. What if the package would be an expensive device and your roommate's too lazy to get up for 10 seconds to get it, and it gets stolen? I can't imagine his work being so important that he can get his own package but leave yours on the porch? LOL. My 37 female sister, 40, is having a second wedding this summer. Her first wedding was nearly 15 years ago, as she married her college boyfriend when she was 25, and they divorced 5 years later. My sister didn't talk about why the marriage ended at the time, but came out as a lesbian several years later. She said she was forcibly converted into being straight by her parents' actions. She began dating her current partner 5 years ago. She's lovely and seems like an excellent match for my sister. I'm genuinely happy for them and wish them the best. But here's where the conflict comes in. As soon as my sister announced that she and her partner were getting legally married, our parents jumped at the opportunity to plan and pay for the wedding. My sister and her partner can more than easily pay for it, but my parents insist on paying for it for the principle of the matter. I believe this insistence is largely a way for them to try to make up to my sister how they handled her identity in the past. My parents have become far more liberal in recent years, but were heavily involved in the church when we were growing up. I didn't know this then, but my parents took my sister to some conversion therapy type program camp when she first tried to come out to them as a teenager. They feel bad about this and try to make it up to her. Despite this, I think it's unfair that my sister's getting a second wedding paid for when I only have gotten one. I tried to bring this up to my parents by asking if they would pay for my husband's and my vow renewal to make it even. They got mad at me and said I was being ridiculous and selfish at a time that should be about my sister. Am I the idiot for asking my parents to pay for my vow renewal to make things even between my sister and me? You are the idiot. How about this? When you marry a woman, they'll pay for that. In the meantime, be quiet and enjoy your privilege of being able to marry the person you loved the first time. I'm delighted that your parents called you out on this. Go parents. Like, yeah, The parents are probably paying for the wedding to make up for the conversion camp, as they should. Of course, they massively messed up and will probably be trying to deal with that for the rest of their lives. OP's like, well, it isn't fair that my sister gets more money than me just because our parents locked her up for a bit. But I want more money spent on me too. Stomping feet. OP, grow up. Something is very, very wrong with you if you think you deserve a vow renewal because your sister's getting married. Also, a vow renewal event at 37 screams trouble in paradise to me. A renewal is a public announcement of one of us cheated. Now we have to commit again because that'll make the issues evaporate. OP can't stand to not be in the spotlight. She has the, I want a gift at my sibling's birthday energy. Not everything is about you. Your parents are trying to make amends. Let them stop being petty. You had a wedding that I'm assuming your parents paid for to a person you actually loved and wanted to be with. Your sister had a fake wedding to someone she wasn't really meant to be with, just because it was what she was meant to do to make your parents happy. Now she's having a real wedding with someone she's actually happy to be with. Be happy for her. I'm not a fan of tattoos, only because they're so ubiquitous now. When I was a kid, tattoos were rare and rebellious. Nowadays, they're everywhere, and that's fine. People can decorate themselves however they want. But for example, my grandfather had tattoos. His were from when he was in the military and were a memorial to his friends. My son, 19, has wanted a tattoo since he was little, and I told him that was okay, but to really consider whatever he got and have it be at least a little meaningful and not just do it to be cool. I told him if he got something and it had no special meaning, I would get the exact same one. I guess he thought it was an empty threat because he got a tribal armband tattoo. I asked him about it, and he just said it looked cool. Okay, well, I have disposable income and a high pain tolerance. Now we have matching tattoos, and he no longer wants to show off. He says I'm an idiot for getting a tattoo just to prove a point. I think it's silly to get meaningless tattoos to look cool. You are the idiot. Getting a copy of the tattoo of your son and saying tattoos have to be meaningful or well thought about doesn't really match. You only showed him that you're an idiot and you don't stand behind your ideals. On the contrary, OP's tattoo is meaningful and well thought out. It says, I thought long and hard on how to permanently show the world I'm an idiot. Your goal specifically was to ruin his tattoo for him because you don't like that he likes different things than you. Since apparently your own bodily autonomy is less important to you than spiting your son and trying to make him feel stupid, I'd say there's an 80% chance that, even now, at least one of his friends is advising him to get a particularly bad and prominent temporary tattoo so that you'll copy it. I'm just left drowning in all the irony of OP's actions. You didn't want your child to get a meaningless tattoo, so you got an even arguably more meaningless tattoo? He got inked in an art pattern he liked and that appealed to him. He's now being humiliated and mocked by his own parent because he dared to express himself the way he sees fit. If he'd gone off on a tangent, spouting some pretentious garbage on what his tattoo symbolized, would that have made you feel better, even if he made it all up, just to appease your nonsense reasoning? I'm failing to understand OP's logic. Like, what's their goal? What are they teaching their son by doing this? Or the point is of humiliating your child? Jesus, OP, you have psychological issues, and you need some serious help, because now your son has a permanent reminder of why he shouldn't trust you with anything he's excited about.